All right, so it's super windy out right now. So windy, in fact, that my tripod almost just blew over. So I have you down one step lower than normal. Maybe it's a new angle I could try out. It's a little bit easier to carry the tripod this way. But I'm out here on such a windy day because I want to test out a new overstable distance driver. I've been throwing these 2021 Tour Series Kelvin destroyers, the Halo destroyers, for quite a while now because they're like one of the best overstable distance drivers in the game. However, if you've thrown these before and are trying to get your hands on them now, this year, you know how expensive they can get because they stopped making these 4 years ago. So everything is a resale and they're a lot more expensive now. So I wanted to try out a PD2 because I'm such a big fan of Discmania. A lot of their new plastics and discs I really like, and I've heard that the PD2 is pretty overstable and to me seems like it could be a pretty good replacement for the Halo destroyer of old. We're gonna play a couple holes. It's crazy windy, so we'll see which one holds up best in the wind. Am I gonna hang on to these for a little bit longer, or will the PD2 be a good enough replacement? Hole 1 here, par 4, really just gonna rip one out there. And we got mostly tailwind, I think, here, so shouldn't be too much, but a good starting hole just to get things going. We're gonna go with the destroyer first, tried and true. I'm gonna put it on like a little bit of a flex so I can get out to the right. Yep, way out there. Yeah, the wind's pushing hard left to right now. You can probably see the leaves going across the ground. So even then, I got it out to the right. Wind was pushing it, but it still fought back at the end. We'll see if the PD2 can do the same. We'll try and put it on a similar angle. A little lower. Oh, but that fought back really nice. Even got a nice flare skip. Pretty good start. Let's get going. Man, even though the PD2 is super low and driven, got pretty far. I've got like probably a little over 100 feet into the basket here. Should have a little easy hyzer. Wind's pushing me out to the right though, so. Putting is gonna be rough. That might have been a little short. Man, with the angle I got this destroyer on, I think the wind did a lot of the work, but it got like decently close to pin high. Just throw my deflector up there. Oh yeah, that's parked. Dude, I am legitimately terrified of putting in this wind. I have exclusively put in my garage for the past 6 months. I have not put outside pretty much at all. Straight headwind, let's see. Deflector's a tap in, so. Oh my gosh, it's terrifying. You gotta spin them in. I can't really throw my normal putt. All right, we're gonna skip ahead to hole 4 blues here. This is kind of a hole where I'm gonna be throwing a Halo destroyer, especially on a windy day like today. Normally I would throw something more like a Thunderbird-esque disc on this hole because it's about 370, slightly uphill, so it plays close to 400. Pretty good shot for a Thunderbird to just kind of hang one out there. Oh, and there's a big wind gust. See, you're not falling over. It's because I got you lower to the ground. But with this wind right now, you know, it plays like it feels like a little bit longer. You can just rip a Halo destroyer out to the right, let it fade out to the left a little bit. So we'll see if the PD2 can handle this shot. I've thrown Halo destroyer on this hole many times. The trick is to make sure it doesn't skip into the hazard left of the basket. But as long as I hang it up there, we have this left to right wind coming across, so it should just hang up to the right and then fight that wind on the way back and sit right at the basket. We'll go Halo destroyer first. Ooh, actually, pretty decent headwind right now. So even more reason to be throwing the destroyer here. Oh, and I overturned it. Goodbye. That's so far right, it's not even in the hazard. We'll try and correct on that. Just throw it flat. I don't need to crank it over like I did in the last hole. Oh yeah, look at it fight back. There we go. Bit of a long putt. Probably could have put a bit more juice on it, but pretty good shot. Yeah, you can tell how windy it is. That's a brand new 21 Halo destroyer. I threw it just in my last video, so still got it turned over into the headwind, and it didn't really like to come back. Try to put this under the basket. Sit. I think that's pretty close. Got a little bit of a putt for the PD2 though. Now I got a stiff headwind right in my face. Try and spin it a little bit. Yeah, and I'll tap in the zone off camera. Let's see what the forehand capabilities of these discs are. We're gonna skip ahead to, this is hole 6 blues. It says 325. It goes a little bit uphill, but then kind of back downhill. It might be a slight bit uphill into the basket. I have hit metal with a Halo Destroyer on this hole going forehand. It's not the shot I prefer anymore. I kind of go like putter or mid on a turnover backhand, but the forehand line is there if you can get it to fade in early. So definitely got to fight this wind. We kind of have like a tail slight right to left. So it's going to push us in there, but it's going to try and push us out to the left into those trees. So we want to get something pushing in and then dumping out at the very end to come in towards the basket. I feel like the PD2 will fare better here, just based off of the couple of throws I've had. I feel like the PD2 fights into the wind a little bit better. Even on that last hole where I totally screwed up the shot with the Destroyer, I did feel like the PD2 was fighting out a little bit more. Anyway, Destroyer first, forehand. Just try and push it just to the left a little bit where that tree's hanging down and try to get it to fight back. Oh, it's too low. It was good. It probably would have skipped to a really good spot, but threw it really low and it just went right into the trees. All right, PD2, try and do a little better this time. Yeah, same mistake, but it's fighting out earlier. I feel like you can see it's fighting out a little earlier. Both of them into the trees. We'll just skip off this hole. There's a reason I don't throw the forehand on it anymore. We're on to the hole I'm sure many of you are waiting to see. Hole 10 from the Blues. Just a big rip on hyzer. My go-to disc on this hole is a overstable Halo Destroyer. We have a headwind left to right, so pretty much the worst possible wind for this hole, pushing me towards the OB, pushing me away from where I'm trying to go. If there's gonna be any disc that can handle it, it's the PD2 and the 21 Halo Destroyer. We're just gonna pump it out on hyzer, see which one fights the wind better. I'm gonna try really hard to make sure I get my angles right here because this is gonna be the most important hole for seeing which one of these discs handles the wind better. Wind's really picking up too, so this is perfect timing. Oh, turned over a little bit. It didn't fight that well. It kind of got flipped over. I'll try and throw the PD2 on the same angle. I could have gone with more hyzer, but I wanted to see how it pushed into the wind on like a pretty stock release, just because it is a pretty overstable disc. We'll see if the PD2 can do a little bit better. Oh, a little bit nose up. And that's just way left. Oh, that was nothing like what I wanted. I'm gonna go get that and throw it again. Like I said, I wanna make sure I get this shot right. That just wasn't very good. Keep it a little nose down, pushing out. There we go. Look at that. Fights the wind beautifully. Maybe a little more hyzer than the Destroyer, but it didn't turn over at all. Fought into the wind great. You might be thinking to yourself, kind of looked like you threw both of those shots pretty differently. And I think I did to an extent. However, I think there's a key difference between these two discs is one, the Destroyer has more glide and is more of like a domey top, so it's gonna get more wind under it, more air under it, and more susceptible to turning over or fighting back really hard at the end of the flight. Where I think the PD2 is a less glidey disc, has less dome on it, just the way the mold came out, and so it's gonna be able to just fight into the wind a little better. So even if I was off by a little bit, over all these throws, despite being off, I think the PD2 allows you to kind of be off by a little bit, and it's always gonna just cut through the wind, where the Destroyer, as a wind disc, especially the Halo Destroyer, I've found that it can kind of get turned over a little bit, get a little bit of wind under it, get a little bit of air under the flight plate, and it's more susceptible to variations laterally, where it seems like the PD2 is able to fight through pretty well. So even though I'm not throwing the disc perfectly, I think we're getting a pretty good representation of why these two discs are different. Even if I threw them exactly the same, I think it's pretty clear the PD2 would have fought out a little bit better instead of fighting over to the right a little bit before coming back out. I'm gonna try using my deflector. I haven't really thrown it that much last season. We're gonna push to the right and then go around that tree. So overstable. Nice. Man, I really wish I had that deflector with me right now. I'll try and get a zone up there though. You know, even though the Destroyer went further and maybe is a better distance disc, like I like a lot about the Halo Destroyer, but there's a reason Kelvin, I think, is throwing the Quasar as his wind disc now. It's just a little bit squirrely, and on a hole like this, it's fine, but if there's OB right, a little bit tighter to where I'm trying to go, I think the PD2 is gonna fare a lot better into windy conditions. Just for being consistent and not putting you OB. Oh my gosh, it is so windy. There's a layup for par. If I can make this putt, giving the PD2 even more of an edge here. I'll get my little disc flip, straight headwind, uphill putt, 25, 30 feet. Pretty much nightmare fuel right here. Oh, that actually almost worked. Had the right pace on it. I almost missed that. The wind's starting to get to pretty absurd levels. So I think it's a pretty good time to wrap it up. We'll just throw over the OB here on 18. Should be a pretty easy shot. We have a bit of a tailwind. Can kind of just pump out both of these on a little bit of a flex line. Let it fight back. Should be right in the middle of the fairway. I mean, just based on score, I think PD2 got a couple birdies. I don't think the Destroyer really got any except for the first hole. So kind of seems like the more consistent disc. I think there's a little bit at play where, you know, maybe I'm throwing one disc a little better than the other, like I said before, but I think the consistency of the disc does play a little bit of a factor. As you can see, the Destroyer has a significant more dome, and I think that creates just more, even though it's overstable, it's gonna be more susceptible to turning over into the wind or just having some weird behavior, where I think this, you know, it's not board flat, but just flatter profile with a little bit of a dome, not quite that pop top. That's gonna give you a bit more of a reliable profile and flight into the wind, which is kind of what I'm looking for an overstable disc. And then if I want to have something that's a little overstable, not quite a wind disc, but has that dome to it, I have that Halo Emperor that I went over on Monday. Anyway, let's just throw these both out there, get a nice big flight, this time into a tailwind, and finish it up. Whoa, whoa. It still made it, but that dropped like crazy. I guess the tailwind's doing a lot. I'll try and give this a bit more height. I thought that was a pretty good height though. Oh, it's still dropping. Come on, have the power. Oh, we gotta get that back. Yeah, throw an overstable disc into a tailwind, trying to beat OB. Maybe not the best thing ever. I'll tell you right now, I wanted so badly to just grab one of my flippier discs and just chuck it on a big hyzer flip into this tailwind, especially after throwing that atrocious shot with the PD2. Oh, I can see it. It just made it on the grass. Probably still OB if there were lines, but there's no lines, so we'll call it in. Yeah, definitely not the best to be throwing a super overstable disc into a tailwind trying to beat OB. It's just gonna drop out of the sky. Flippy disc though, could probably get that going pretty far. Oh, of course I'm right on this slant right here with the sand behind me. Honestly, pretty low chance I get up and down from either of these shots. Pretty happy the PD2 stayed dry though, because that OB is not dry. It is very... Just try and flex a Firebird, I don't really know. I don't think I can throw a backhand comfortably on this slope. Oh, I may have a putt. There we go. With the way everything's sloped, there's like no way I can show you this shot to the basket unless I go place the camera on the other side of this OB swamp thing. I don't feel like doing that, so you're just gonna watch me throw it and I'll give you a play-by-play of what happens. I might just throw a similar shot, just grab my other Firebird and just flex it up there. Yeah, I think just, not even flex, just hit it flat, let it fade out. Wind should just push me forward. Oh, fading out a little early. Maybe a long putt. Well, I did manage to find myself with a long tailwind step putt. Little uphill, right to left tailwind. Honestly, atrocious. I don't have any room to go right and let it come back left. I guess I'll just try and pop it up on a little bit of Anheuser. Hope it doesn't fade out too early. I also got to get this really high with how much tailwind there is. Oh, I thought that was gonna get taken by the wind so much. Please, for the love of God, let me make this putt. Here, we'll give it a little disc flip. Bam. Now I'm like basically reaching into the basket. Oh my God, I'm terrible. Unsubscribe. Oh my gosh. All right, so after some vigorous testing and some wildly inconsistent throws, I would have to say, I really do, and I know I went in this video saying that these are getting too expensive for me. I don't want to keep buying them. And unfortunately, Innova hasn't made anything like this Destroyer since 2021, unfortunately. Not that I know of, at least. But despite all that, even if I could still get these, I really do think the PD2 ends up winning this out. Even though my throws weren't terribly consistent, I do think that the extra dome that the Halo Destroyer has kind of plays into being a bit more squirrely in the wind, where the PD2 is just a little bit more of a neutral flight plate and has a bit more consistency in the wind. It's not like I'm throwing the PD2 for big distance lines or anything like that. I just want to have a disc that I know I can rely on in the wind. And the Destroyer, while a great disc, has come out to bite me in the ass during rounds when I'm throwing into a headwind. So far, I haven't really seen the PD2 do that to me yet. And as long as I can keep a fresh one that has a good stability in my bag, I think I can rely on this disc in pretty much any conditions. There is still a warm place in my heart for the Halo Destroyer, the 2021 Calvin Halo Destroyer. But with the PD2 and the Halo Emperor that I tried out the other day, I really just think they complement each other really well, where one is a bit more overstable, of like kind of a distance driver, and then this is more of a wind disc. I think they pretty much cover all of my bases that I might need in a tournament, and I think it's time to say goodbye to the Halo Destroyer. PD2 is going in the bag. If you want to get your own, go to otbdisc.com, use my code, which is right there, also in the description. Yeah, great disc. If you haven't thrown it before, definitely try it out. I'm impressed, and I'm happy to be putting it in the bag. I'll see you next time. Peace.